Rollercoaster Tycoon is back. Well, kinda. Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 originally released in 2004 and received expansions into the following year. But after that, nothing worth mentioning, for both the series and the genre. After a long stretch of disappointing mobile games and an uncertain changing of hands, Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 Complete Edition popped up, seemingly out of nowhere, and available on a console no less. Before I get started, I'm going to get this one thing out of the way and save some people some time. This is directed at anyone already familiar with the game asking, what's the difference between Complete and the existing Platinum version of the game? It's quite simple. Native widescreen support. That's it. Well, and obviously the fact that this is available on consoles for the first time with the Nintendo Switch, which is what I'm playing it on. If there are any other deliberate changes, they are too small to notice or exclusive to the Switch version, which I'll get to later. And just like Platinum, all content is included. This mainly seems like a rebranding after the rights fiasco that followed legal issues between developer Frontier and Atari. So if you have Platinum for the PC and are willing to play around in the setting files, you're all set. Now, for those unfamiliar, Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 is the last main entry in its series, which was a mainstay from the golden age of management and simulation games. The game tasks you with running theme parks, building various rides, refreshment stands, utilities, as well as the expanded content of water rides and animal habitats, and, as the name would imply, roller coasters. Roller coasters in particular let you get a bit more hands-on, with full control over designs and various styles and options to choose from. This extends to other rides as well, like flumes, monorails, and even mini-golf courses. Regardless of what you build, you have a handful of customization options available for all rides, with different colors, music, and themes. You can also fine-tune your rides, change speed, passenger capacity, and how long to wait before starting. Alongside all these attractions, you also have the means to embellish with landscaping, decorations, and events. All of your efforts into building up your park and its offerings reflect on the management portion of the game, as your designs will affect your ratings, reputations, and rewards, how much you can charge on admittance and rides, how many people and what kind come to the park, and depending on your game mode, what rides and attractions you have available. You also must handle upkeep, balance the finances, hire employees, advertise your park or specific rides. At a glance, it sounds simple, but each task has its own smaller variables that keep things fresh and make sure you are micromanaging for optimal usage of funds and resources. Like how much you charge for rides and refreshments, how much you pay your employees and whether or not they are trained and disciplined, how often are rides tested, what paper do you put your ads in and for how long, do you serve extra pickles on your burgers or not. Fine-tuning all of these smaller details fill the downtime in between larger projects. Building, managing, improving, advertising, and adjusting all these aspects of your park form the core gameplay of Rollercoaster Tycoon 3. Plenty of menus will acquire your attention as you balance multiple tasks in real time. Now, this was all built with a mouse and keyboard in mind, and putting that on console goes about as well as you'd expect. My biggest gripe with the controls is the lack of options. Sure, you can adjust the camera and sensitivity, but you can't change the bindings or size of the HUD. The control you can get used to, it helps that the layout of the game is grid-based, so you don't need extremely precise movement, although I can't help but feel they missed an opportunity. If there was any console that had the means to handle a cursor without a mouse, it would be the Switch with the Joy-Cons. The built-in sensors can accurately control cursors, but Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 opts for analog control in both the free and fixed options, which would be nice if they let you set different levels of sensitivity for both modes, but they don't. And they don't even use the touchscreen in handheld mode. As it stands, accessing the various options and actions is handled through radial menus you switch between using the L and R buttons, L handling all constant menus and R handling menus pertaining to currently selected objects. It takes a while to adjust to knowing which one to press when, and when you should or shouldn't hold the buttons down. It's serviceable, but a far cry from being able to open and stack whatever menus you wanted at any time, and flip between them. The only thing I feel I won't be able to adjust to is creating and editing the advanced Mixmaster scenery. Setting up complex pyrotechnic and laser work shows using this menu and these controls is a chore, and I doubt any amount of adjusting to this style will change that. That's all the tools and controls. As far as the game itself, there are two main ways to play. There's a sandbox mode where you are free to set your own goals or just build to your heart's content on a blank slate. And then there's the career mode, which offers a multitude of scenarios that take place in pre-built locations and have very specific goals, ranging from simple, like earning a certain amount of money, or a bit more complex, like building a roller coaster to attain a specific ranking. And each scenario has 3 ranks to acquire based on these goals, and completing these goals will unlock more scenarios. While most scenarios have an in-game time limit, you can freely save and jump between each, completing them at your leisure. And that's the bulk of the game. There are a few supplementary modes where you can preemptively build roller coasters and scenery, and save them for easy access in-game. You can also make some custom peeps for added flavor and familiar faces, and when in the main game you can use the coaster cam to take a ride on the various attractions in your park. Unfortunately, Switch owners will miss out on a few features, the biggest being custom scenarios, which let you create or download additional user scenarios with custom goals. This ultimately leaves you with the existing scenarios and nothing else, hampering replayability and preventing what could have been a new creative scene on the console version. Strangely enough, the tutorial mode is also absent from the Switch version, tutorials instead appearing as pop-ups with the option to reset them or shut them off in the options menu. There's also the lack of file management, which means if you wanted to have multiple career files, you'd need to have multiple accounts. And on a smaller obvious note, you won't be able to inject your own custom music to menus and attractions, or photos to billboards and signs. The last thing to note is that, overall the game performs very well on the Switch, in both handheld and docked, though you will notice some detail differences when zooming in and out compared to the PC version, and some slowdown when adding or building near large bodies of water. I also noticed the game will sporadically drop frames in more packed parks, even in docked mode. Normally I'd excuse this given the hardware difference, but Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 is pretty old. This just feels like cut corners to me. But all in all, Complete is a fine port of Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, a game I'd recommend to anyone looking to scratch that management itch. And while there isn't anything new to see, it is a welcome return that fills a spot left vacant for nearly 16 years, as well as one never quite filled on consoles. Well, except for that Xbox port of Rollercoaster Tycoon 1, but who remembers that?